Good afternoon. This is Bart Sharp with United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network 107.5 and 103.5, along with Roku, YouTube, Facebook, and a lot of other medias, welcoming you to Becoming Quantum Conscious. And you can check in with us if you're on the radio by going to YouTube and going to Bart Sharp. That's me, Bart Sharp at bartsharp.com. And go to our live feed there on YouTube. And you can join in the chat and have a lot of fun with us and ask questions and be with all of those things that we will be doing today on Becoming Quantum Conscious at the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. I always like to say it a few times. I'm a little redundant. And today we are welcoming Cledstone Jordan, who is a crystal skull healer, but also someone who adores enthusiastic part of his spiritual life, and all of these things that when you start into the healing process of helping others, and that's also along with expanding your awareness, you jump into an arena that probably never expected. And I've known Cledstone for 15 years. Around that time, maybe longer. It's all blurry when you get that long and you get to my age. But he's always been passionate about the spiritualness, the spiritual side, and with crystal skulls. So we welcome Cledstone Jordan. Welcome to the show, Cledstone. We're really glad that you're here.
All right. Thank you, Bar. I appreciate that. I am excited to be here, to say the
Me,
least.
me too. And we've had a few problems here, and that I can't see Cledstone. And if you are on the chat and you can see Cledstone, would you please let me know? I don't have his security issues in that I have to see his face. Exactly what he's
Yvonne
about.
says she can.
He's very exotic looking. If you I can't see him. Uh,
Yvonne says she can see. She can see. Yes.
Yay! So this is good, and people are filing in. And so, if you are part of the chat and you want to ask questions for Cledstone or me, but preferably Cledstone, I think he's cuter than me actually. But
I do all right.
you know, he definitely has a cute wife, so we don't have to go into that. So there's a lot to the crystal skulls, and they're always a bit of a mystery to me. And there's all of the skeptics and the people that say, well, these things, were made 200 years ago by people with all of these high tech equipment, which I don't know how you got high tech equipment 200 years ago,
Right.
but so that's all interesting little mystery there.
Yeah.
How you could get all of that very hard crystal all smooth and polished like that
Right. With no
at that
tools.
age.
Right.
But we're not going to go there about the skepticism and the
Right.
conspiracy theories of that.
Right.
We are going to be going into the experiences people have had with crystal skulls, particularly Cledstone, and what you know about them. And maybe that's the best place to start out, because not everybody knows all the stories about what we believe they're about. And so, what if we start out the show with you just sharing what you know about their origins and history?
Okay, I can do that, and feel free to cut me off if my mouth gets to be running. So, I consider myself and my wife. I consider us Crystal Skull caretakers, in a sense, and along with we use the skulls for healing. Back in long time ago, there's several stories about how these 13 crystal skulls came about. And from my understanding is that they were 13 individuals of high consciousness that came together, and they were able to each create their own crystal skull by just meditating, creating a certain sound, and with a crystal, they were able to go ahead and run this crystal over the stone, and that metamorphosized into a crystal skull. Each,
So, can I
mhm,
ask one question?
sure.
When you say individuals, are you talking
Mhm.
about humans or ETs or something else?
I am talking about both. I just know these individuals were of such a high consciousness. Maybe they live somewhere else and were able to manifest themselves into the same reality with all the other ones,
Hmm.
right? So I don't want to say it was just humans or it was just extraterrestrials. Let's broaden it out and say the 13 were very important because when they came together with the intention of creating something really wonderful, and how is spirit going to express itself even more. And so that is the vibration we want to go with,
Hmm.
right? And so they manifested these skulls. So these are called ancient crystal skulls. That's why some of them, they can test them under microscopes, and they can't see where the tool marks are because they weren't created with tools. Now the crystal skulls we have are called modern ones, and if you look at those under a microscope, you will be able to see the sand marks and all that on these crystals. So, but these ancient ones, they they weren't created like the way we create them, right? We don't have this high technology right now in our focus where we can sing a hymn or do a chant or a mantra and manifest things, right?
Yeah.
We're getting there. So that's
Hmm.
the focus. We're getting there. But this technology they had before, right? And
Right.
somehow we lost that connection, and we are building back to that kind of atmosphere where we're able to manifest what we want with everything that we were born with, right? So that's the origin of those 13. And there were uh 12 of them, and then there's one that contains everything about all the other 12. That one is called like the master skull,
So
right?
so many things go from 12 to 13, just like
Absolutely.
that same design, whether you're talking about the 12 apostles
Correct.
or the 12 sisters of Isis, with Isis to being the 13,
Correct.
or the 12 sacred stargates with
Correct.
a 13th energy, in my opinion, is Mount Sinai.
Mhm.
So once again, we have this wonderful mathematical power there.
Mathematical sacred geometry, like as in 12 chakras. We only talk about seven, but there are some that are outside of our aura, that not outside, well, outside of the body,
Uh-huh.
right? So there's that 12. And the thing about 12 is each level is also a gradient, into can be broken out into 12 gradients as well. So when you're dealing with these things, you don't go from one to two, you go from one to one plus one, one plus two, and you grade it up until you grade up and you move up. So it's intense, it takes a lot of time, dedication, and passion. That's my thing about it. I'm passionate about it, you
Hmm.
know, more than anything else at this point, because it's all about healing, and we're all about healing in whatever tool we use, right?
Yes.
Cards, the singing bowls, the skulls, it's all about healing, and it's all about sound. The more we get into this, it'll be all about sound, sound healing.
Sound healing with the skulls.
Absolutely correct. Because almost again, that's how they were created in the original one. So when we get
Mhm.
together now, we put our 12 together, right? They're just a representation of what that original vibration was with those original 12, 13 together. So that's what we're doing when we're sitting around in our circles and we're having 12, sometimes we have 24, sometimes we have 100, right? We're just this is just a representation of we're trying to connect back to that ancient energy, right?
Yes,
Because that energy is still available.
it is indeed. And that's funny with the channelings and the work that I've done with the 12 Sisters of Isis. It's very much the same thing. 12, 12 women together doing sacred work within their hips and their hearts opened up.
Mhm.
But then they would do these super groups where it was 12 times 12
Right,
to change
right,
communities and to land that energy in more profoundly. And of
right,
course, this is all coming up from the earth, from the great central sun,
right,
which is more like a portal where Isis can come in.
right.
Uh, it's very interesting that we have so many cool parallels with that. Um, do you see that there's any particular star systems or planetary systems that have an affinity with the creation of the skulls?
They are a few. There's a lot of them. Of course, there's too many extraterrestrial, or, and I hate to say that word sometimes, they're just
Okay.
star
This
beings
this
or
radio
cosmic
program likes
family.
ETs.
Hmm? Huh?
This radio program likes ETs. It's the Paranormal UFO Paranormal Radio Network. So
Right. Yeah.
breathe it.
Uh,
Let it
but
out, Cledstone.
but sometimes when we say ETs, we're thinking ETs, and then there's us. When really, in fact, it's all of us. We are ETs as well, right? So
Oh, yes,
so we're it's all one big cosmic family, right? And
indeed.
so there's a few that interact with us more directly than others. The
Hmm.
Pleiadians, of course, are very close to us.
Right.
The Arcturians are very close to us as far as with these crystal skulls.
Uh-huh.
And if I can talk about the Arcturians really quick, when I deal with them or interact with their consciousness, it sounds they're like they're singing. They're like they're singing this knowledge, if I can put it that way. When I get
Wow.
into the information, it's like they're just singing all these poems about whereas in consciousness versus on a chalkboard writing it, it seems like they're singing it. Whereas the Pleiadians, they come to me almost as like teachers, right? Here is how I'm gonna break this down to you. So there's some Osirian or from Osiris that we deal with as well, and there's some negative and positive from that constellation as well. We're
Uh-huh.
just we're just into what is positive and what is good for our growth. That's our intention. So anything else just passes us by in the night, right?
And
Like when,
and William Garrison has this great comment,
mhm.
question comment. Don't leave out the moon.
Of
Uh,
course.
what does that mean? I know you got an answer.
Yeah, yeah. For me, the moon is not a planet. To me, the moon is a satellite. It moves around, right?
Uh-huh.
It wasn't there in the beginning. Someone moved it there, and we also
Hmm.
know that the moon is hollow. And if you listen to NASA and all that, they will tell you that they dropped something on the moon and it rang like a bell, right? Which means it is
Wow.
somewhat hollow. And this is from NASA, who isn't really into extraterrestrials, but they're doing experiments. And so they dropped something else, and of course, it rang again, and it rang for a certain amount of time. So it says it is
Mhm.
almost hollow. My thing is, I wonder if anybody lives there. What do they think about you dropping something on your house, right? But to me, there's lots of stuff going on the moon, stuff we never hear about,
Yeah.
in mainstream,
Right.
but there's lots of stuff going on the moon. Why doesn't it turn? Why don't we only see one side, right? Where everything else turns, we see the earth turning, right? We see everything. Why does that not turn, right?
Yeah.
So there's lots of things about the room, but there's stuff happening on the moon. There's things happening on the earth, on the moon, and on Mars that are really tied to the Draconian Empire, the Dracos,
Right,
right?
right,
And
right.
so that is one of their hiding spots, right? They're
Hmm.
also on the Earth as well, and they're also on Mars. If you've heard them say when they go to Mars, they see the the ancient remnants of civilization,
Yes.
just like they do in the pyramids. So there are pyramids, there are all that. So it's almost the same civilizations in all these places, right? So I don't want to leave out the moon at all, but yeah, there's
No,
lots
no,
of stuff going
not at
on there.
all. I haven't heard that with Mars, and that's
Yeah.
really fascinating. My whole body is like, if you do not know anything about me, my body vibrates when I hear truths, and I'm and shakes and does all of these things, and I'm
Right.
doing a really good job keeping still.
Right.
But it there's just a very eerie feeling about that, and I never
Right.
really like to think of that as dangerous. I think the draconians are very interesting, and somehow they have served a purpose
Correct.
being in that reptilian type of
Right.
consciousness, and we really
Right.
haven't enjoyed it.
Right.
I've removed enough curses off of people to know that there's a lot of darkness there.
Right. I mean,
However,
we're
they are
we're a
part
part
of
of
us.
that. We're part. They're part of us as well.
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
basic instincts, or fight or flight, that's
mhm,
draconian. But
yeah,
the deal is for us is how do we rise above that animal instinct and grow your consciousness into something that they know we have, but they don't want us to have it, because then we're no longer controlled by all the things that they're playing, the games they play with us, right? They play games so that we can be angry, so that they can siphon off those
right, right.
emotions and work with that energy, right?
And when we talk to a really good astrologer, they will tell you that each planet has a purpose in a greater whole that serves not only the Earth and we beings of Earth, but
Hmm.
the whole planetary system
Correct. It serves the
itself.
whole. It serves all that is, right?
And,
It serves the entire thing.
and we have a comment from
Hmm.
Carrie Langdock.
Hmm.
I hope I pronounced that right. Um, because it's a French name and I want to pronounce it like a French person, like Langdoc. But
That sounds
if
right.
you're from Texas, you say Languedoc. But she says they say that of the Anunnaki and the Dracos, which,
Hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong,
Hmm.
Cledstone,
Hmm.
the Anunnaki are different than the Dracos. The Anunnaki are more of a foreign species or energies.
To me, the Anunnaki are. I mean, the Dracos have been around for quite some time, right?
Hmm.
Here, and I mean, again, they were here before us, right? So there's things going on inside the earth that we really don't know about. So, but to me, the Anunnaki, that goes back to the Sumerians and way before that,
Yes.
but to me, they're slightly different in vibration,
Yeah.
right? I don't
Yeah.
know that the Anunnaki or the Dracos are war, 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 war. Let's take over. I don't know that Anunnaki is like that vibration. So I would separate those two on that level.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. They weren't nice people. They were the 10-foot people, from what I understand, that
Right,
did try to rule over and uh, enslave humans to some degree.
right,
And when we look at some of those times, there were races of people that were very much star people that were humans, and there was this emergence of ET and humans. And probably if you're listening to this radio show and you're not running away and turning it off, you're probably part of that group,
right,
because you would gravitate to this type of information. Something would just pull you in,
right,
and you would want to hear it, uh, or you'd be repelled by it, and say, "Oh, they're just a bunch of bull."
right,
But you haven't turned the radio off.
right, right. And the ones that repel, those are fine because at some point something else will come along that will get them to where they need to be.
Yeah, yeah.
So but yeah, well, we're almost like we're all integrated with all these other cosmic civilizations, right? We're like an experiment. We're a conglomerate of all these other civilizations that said, I'm going to put a piece in here, a piece in here, I'm going to put this piece in here, and that is us. And so once we start,
Yeah.
at some point, we want to talk about, at some other show, we want to talk about 12 strand DNA when we can realize that ingrained in our DNA is information about the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Syrians, Orions, the Lyrians.
Exactly.
They all have
Exactly.
a spot in helping us to grow into what we are right now. So we're like
So,
the
so
experiment, right?
let's just change the intention, because this is a great, what you said is very profound,
Hmm.
that they're all part of us. And it really brings up the question, well, how do we learn how to bring that into ourself? And there's one way that you could just summon it and request it
Hmm.
and read books on it, and
Hmm.
that's all intellectual.
Hmm.
But there's another part, that how do you viscerally and vibrationally live with it in your everyday life?
It
A higher vibration, because I think that's what they're trying to service. It's like you change the cells and your molecules in your body by actualizing the vibration that they
right,
could actually become.
right. For a lot of people, it's just they're not even aware of these other things that are outside their little box that somebody created for them or they created for themselves. So a lot of this is just if you're aware that these crystals can offer you information to help your growth, then just being aware is helpful. Most people aren't aware, so then they push these things away.
Yeah,
So once you're aware that, hey, you're not really ET, you're my brother, right? So
exactly.
then now your energy is different. Now when something shows up, you're not scared of it because okay, you're a family from far away versus oh, you're something from out there that I'm afraid of. So the awareness is most
Exactly.
important for us to know that these things do exist, and they're real. And then once you start doing that, and then you just, again, this is a free will place, you have to just invite, look, I want to learn more about me. So you're the most important thing, not these other people. So once you start to
Yeah,
find out what is it about you, how do I make myself grow, what does it make, what makes me tick, what makes me mad, what makes me happy. As long as you start doing those things, then the information will gradually come to you, whether it's by a book or a radio show or a TV or listen to somebody else's
or just or just
conversation
or just meditating in a cave, or meditating out in the forest and asking for those vibrations to come in.
anywhere.
It's because our body knows all of this information
Right, right,
already. We have been ETs. We have been, I like to call them light people, people of light
right,
that came from these other solar systems. And if
right,
you're really curious about where you're from, you might just think of these planets and muscle tests using applied kinesiology, and just see which one you're from,
right.
and
and,
see
and
what the affinity is, and study that planet and see what affinities you have in
right,
that you've been living unconsciously. Now,
right.
to me, this brings a lot of hope up, because yes, there is a lot of polarity. And as we talked about the Draconians and the Anunnaki, and we've had comments on the chat with the government, there's always something like that around that is threatening. I can't think of a time in history that we've not had threats,
Right.
ever.
And
However, the other side to it is
mhm,
we can tune into these type of energies. Maybe 1,000 years ago, we were, tuning into the energies of Jesus Christ and Mother Mary,
right,
or even 100 years ago, or whatever, and that gave us an expansion. Some people would
right,
call it hope
right,
and safety,
right,
but it's also an expansion. And in this day and age, we have such an opportunity to even go beyond that,
correct.
with things like the skulls.
Right,
Uh, it really, your comment earlier about the 12 or 13 people
mhm,
that seem like, as I get it, the vision I get is just like they represented a community. In other words, a community of angels, ETs, and all of these things that were kind of surrounding them, where they all became one. And
Correct.
something out of that person's head transferred into the crystal, and then the
Correct.
magic started happening.
Correct. So each individual skull had was ingrained with the personality energy of that one individual. Right. I'm still working with, exactly if they're all human, right? Or, if there were other ones. Right now I'm going with yes, they were either or, but the
Oh,
intention is the information, and how do we use it to grow and become better than we ever
mhm,
thought we could be, right? and
mhm,
and build a pyramid, which we really
mhm.
can't do right now, right? Because we lost a lot of that technology, all of that connection back
Yeah,
to our cosmic family, right? Because we played the games via Atlantis. We played the games with this crystal energy, and we went more physical than we did spiritual, right? There
yeah.
should be a balance, right?
Eventually, it got out of balance with those people.
Correct.
However,
Correct.
they made a lot of great progress,
Correct.
and they did phenomenal things. And the planet at that time, and we're talking somewhere between before 8000 BC. That's when the Great
Right.
Flood happened and
Right.
everything changed.
Right.
And that's, well documented and noted that
Right.
something happened back then where a lot of water flew in and,
Right.
things were destroyed.
Right.
Everything changed. But
Right.
before that, there were some communions.
We did.
I have a
Yeah.
psychic friend. I'll share this story. Her name is Penny. She'll be on the show in the future. I'm going to France on April 15th. And all the time that I'm in France, I will have guests that are from France or Europe. And so we're going to get the European version of becoming quantum conscious
Mhm.
over there, which would be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And one of my friends, Penny, has this dream where she's an Egyptian spirit and the ETs are coming in to be with the Egyptians, and the Egyptians are literally renting them out bodies to be in so they can experience the human experience.
Correct.
And
That
so there was a real trade-off between the Syrians and the Egyptians that
correct.
had this special communion together, and through that
Right.
process, um, they, you know, the ET stuff ingrained in with the people. And this was happening thousands and thousands of years with
Right.
that.
Right.
And the ETs were just as fascinating about what it was like to be human and
Correct.
to eat food, have anger, be sad, have
Right.
sex,
Right.
and all of those things that we just take for
Take for
granted.
granted. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now they were learning from us as we're learning from them. You know, again, when I started doing the research, I went back as far back of as 250,000 years ago when things were happening on this planet. So things that
Mhm.
have been happening a long time. I think we probably restarted this whole experiment 3, 4 times, right? But things have
Yeah,
been going on way longer than we care to admit, than the mainstream cares to
yes.
admit. You know.
It is, and now there's studies, and this is in the, Provence region of France, in this cave near Tantove, and I know this well because this is in my neighborhood where I do, Mary Magdalene France tours,
Mhm.
where they found bodies that could be somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 years old.
Correct. And they will keep going back and finding and going back, because what they want to do is they want to touch it and feel it before they believe it. Right. So that's
Yeah,
why they're playing those kind of games versus somebody who's okay. And I'm on the spiritual tip. Let me just go in and get this information directly from the source. So there's good to that. You know what I mean?
yeah, 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 and we had some comments about truth here, and I'd just like to say, it's like, let's just make our own truth of, like, what is more expansive in life, uh, what we see that we're afraid of here, like everything's gonna fall apart. Because
Hmm.
I hear this. I hear this with, clients and friends. or does it feel more light expansive when you start talking about this higher evolved consciousness? Uh, and, in my studies, what feels lighter is usually has a greater reference for truth
Mhm.
than what is dense and heavy. And so we may not know the truth of what's going on in the world. However, when we start to go into the crystal skulls and other modalities, we start to see what the truth is inside of us,
Right.
that we're meant to be doing this stuff.
Right. And that's a good point. When everything has to come from within, right? When I started doing my journey and tried to find out what was wrong with me, that my life didn't work before, I started to go in. What was wrong with me? Of course, there wasn't anything wrong with me. Lessons to learn, and right. But once you start going in, like I'm dealing with the crystal skulls, but they're pointing me in. Look, it was right now. The male is the dominant. The
Yes,
ego is dominant. That's male.
the
And the
masculine.
crystal
Yes.
skulls, right, are moving into the female portion of us where you have to feel these things out and sense these things out, right? And so we have to
Mhm.
find a happy medium between the ego and the male and the female, right? And so this
Indeed.
is what these skulls are bringing us into. It's like now we have to sit with the skull. You have to get to know it. You have to talk to it like it's alive because it is alive. Everything is alive. There's something that I call particle personalities, where the smallest minute particle is alive and conscious that it is alive, right?
Mhm.
And so all these things you find out, but you have to go in. And again, so truth is your truth. My truth is not going to be your truth. I don't want you to take everything I say and run with it, but I want you to take what I say and go research it and then find your own truth, because your truth will come out to you, right? All we're doing is share our experiences so you have a comfortable place, so that when we used to go to church, we wanted to be a place where you could come in and say anything and people don't say you're crazy. You could come in and say, look, I talk to dead people, and we would be like, okay, what's their name, what color are they, how tall are they,
Yeah,
what era was it, versus, hey, you're crazy. And so this
exactly.
is this is the place we want, where people can come in and experience and get their own truth. God, you got to find your own God, your own truth. And so
Right.
these things will
Right.
point you within. That's all these are doing, right? You're going to be the most important thing. With the skulls, they're wonderful, they're tools. I am the most important part in the interaction. If you're doing tarot cards, right, you're the
Right.
most important part of that interaction.
You are the vehicle, and it's bringing in that human component, because we as humans, we we're the conduit for the change. I mean, we have to
Correct.
choose change and to have that with us, and they're just that bridge.
Yeah.
Now, just to change the focus a little bit, I've never been to your house, which is kind of regretful,
Yes,
uh,
sir. Yes, sir.
and
And you
but
have an open invitation.
well, thank you, Cledstone. I'll take that up. Um, so it's full of crystal skulls.
There are many.
And
I
what
won't
does
say
it
how
feel
many.
like to
There are
have?
many.
Well, maybe we are to just take a step back and just bring up a concept that the 13 crystal skulls, when you place I guess, a newly carved skull
Mhm.
beside the crystal skull that's
Right.
an original,
Right.
there's a transfer of energy and
Right.
consciousness.
Right. There is an exchange. It's like and it's a vibrational exchange. It's like if you have two guitars, right? One here and the other one next door, and you play one guitar, at some point this other guitar will start to ring with that same tone, right? So there
Yes.
is a transfer. And so I have in this corner here, I have Osiris and I have some of our main skulls, and then I have a couple that are charging. And so like when we took our crystals, we took Mr. Bojangles and we went and sat with Max, the ancient crystal skull. And so
Mm.
our intention was to get energy from Max that we can bring back with us and
So,
have
so
that as a main one and charge the
why
other
don't you
ones.
stop and explain? who the hell Max is.
Okay, so Max is one of those ancient crystal skulls we talked about in the beginning that we don't know how they were carved, right? They've been tested and they don't know how they were carved. And so that's one of those ancient crystal skulls, Mitchell Edgar's. I think the names will go. There's the Mitchell Edgar skull. There's Shannara. There's 12 of them. So and
Hmm.
these are the ancient ones. And Max is
Yes,
one of those ancient ones.
yes, yes. And Max, the owner, or I don't say the caretaker,
Hmm.
or that's not even a right word. Yeah, I guess caretaker's good enough.
Hmm.
Always went to the psychic fairs in Austin,
Right.
which I got to literally my table was right beside the table that Max was part of.
Right.
He was about 10 feet from my head.
Right.
And every day at the end of the day, it was like, it doesn't matter how many people I worked with,
Right.
I was always kind of in another world.
Right. Yeah, it's the energy of it, and I
Yeah.
think it's opening us up to other perspectives. I think Max just changed hands from Joanna Peroxide. That's who owned it when we sat with it here at Nature's Treasures, and
Uh-huh.
somebody else just took over the duty of walking it around and sharing that information with other people.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that just happened within a month, I think, a month or two at the most,
This is
where they change hands.
all right. So, could you say that name again of that person?
Uh, I know Joanne Parks was the one that had it before,
Okay.
and I think
Okay.
the other lady might be Joanna Pearson. Don't
Okay.
quote
Okay.
me,
And
but
yeah,
we
I'm
can
just
find that online.
yeah, I would like to find that
Yeah, and
out
they're
because
actually be at Alien Con coming up in a couple days or whenever.
okay.
So the information is still being shared, and I'm enjoying that effect that it's going mainstream.
Mhm.
When we started dealing with the skulls, we were like the only ones, right? Or
Mhm.
and in our circle. Now everybody wants to deal with it because it's awakening. You're awakening the
Yes.
skull, and as you're awakening the skull, you're awakening yourself, right? And
Yes.
my Yvonne's mom used to say, "You don't need the tools. You don't need the tools," right? Whereas we really don't need the tools, right? But the tools are the ladder to how you keep growing and growing and learning and learning. Like Yvonne, when she was brought up, she's a medium, and
Mhm.
so when she was brought up, their household was such that she had a place set for her imaginary friend for dinner and
Mm.
such, right? So in that in all eye opening, whereas I had to read and study myself up to this point where I'm at right now. So but it's possible for anybody. This is not just me. Anybody can do this stuff. Anybody
Yes.
can go ahead and in an instant, be actualized and transcend, but some of it it takes work and takes dedication
It,
and
it,
and you have to be open, right? For school doesn't
exactly.
let us to be open.
It's
School
better
says
than
you got to learn this and then you become this and this. School is not open. You want
and
to
when
be
you
open
when you
to the possibilities.
and when you start getting on this track, if you're not on it, it's it's very it just pulls you in. That you just got to do more and more of this type of energetic work because
Right.
it's almost like a spiral that you keep going
Right.
up, and every time
Right.
you take your next step, it
Right.
feels so good that you're just wondering what the heck is going to
Right.
happen next.
Right. Because
It's just
you thought you reached. You're like, oh, I reached. But soon as you look around, it's like, oh, the more you get, the more it's there. Like the more I know, the less I know. Because
yeah.
there's so much more now. Like I started doing this other research about the galactic family and who's helping us. And I
Hmm.
used to think, okay, there's maybe 100,
Yeah.
200 different ETs. There's thousands of them, right? And then it was like, okay, I'll start over, right? And that's how it is. And you're just like, okay, now I need to go back to the drawing board and learn some more. And you grow,
Yeah.
and as you grow, the consciousness of everything grows. Right.
exactly. And so I want to just invite everybody that's listening. Um, in a lot of people, it's all over the world happening here, and most are on the radio. So
Mhm.
some are on this chat, but most everybody's on the radio. But as you listen to this, feel inside of your body, and if you start to feel like you're a little lighter, a little more effervescent, uh, and something just feels different inside of you. It's different for everybody. It's almost like your body has a way of signaling to you that this is a higher vibration, or more importantly, you have a resonance with it. In other words, this is a possible path for you.
Right.
And if you feel that, um, just pay attention to it. It's how you learn to have this dialogue with yourself is by pay attention to what feels lighter in your body as you interact with things.
Right.
We're having somebody next week, Julie Bradshaw, with the Soul of the Horse, and she expands with horses. And they bring in a totally different reality than the crystal skulls.
Correct.
And so we're always asking, well, what is that affinity? As I'm sitting here listening to Cledstone, my whole body feels light and bubbly, and almost like I feel like everything's happening much faster inside of me.
Right.
That's telling me that yes, I need to go buy a crystal skull and
I
bring the bloodstones and let me power
we
it up.
come over. We have lots. Like right now, this one here, I people can't see on the radio, but I have one that I keep my foot on right now because
Mhm.
that's how I'm staying grounded, right? Because I haven't slept really good for a couple days, thinking about this moment where you get to share something that you love and that you know that works for you, and you want to share that so that other people can work with it so it works for them as well. And
Yeah.
so that's what we do. So this is how I'm staying grounded. I have my feet on it,
Mm.
I have all the other ones. And
So
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 just on the
so
skulls
so
rule, huh?
so basically, you're pulling more energy into your body to feel more grounded. Is that what I'm
Right. Yeah,
understanding?
because basically this is made of something that is of the earth. Right? So it's almost
Yeah.
like walking outside and taking your shoes off and socks and walking on the grass and feeling the earth. And that's how you ground yourself sometimes. When I don't know
Yeah.
what to do, you just ground yourself, come back to earth. Sometimes
It's
I have to do that because I'm in the clouds a lot. I'm on other planets a lot. And sometimes I have to remember, hey, you're a human being. Just get back here and find this balance in between.
You
Right?
have to bring in lots and lots of energy into your body, and this is a really important lesson if you've had a lot of abuse or you can't stay in your body, you can't concentrate, you're trying to heal from different addictions. Learn how to pull energy into your body and ground with that bigger energy. And when you're learning this stuff and you're trying to transform out of it, it's it's something you do hour to hour throughout your day
Right.
to really recalibrate yourself into something bigger, because energetically you're supposed to be as big as the universe. If you
Right.
are an ascended master, somebody like Amma or Jesus or
Mhm.
Buddha, their energetic being was so huge that it was as big as the universe. You couldn't it was beyond time and space, basically.
Right. Correct.
A
Like
little bitty
just
body with a universe inside of it. It's beyond
right.
time and space. But
Right.
that's what you're looking to really become. And so with all of these skulls that Clestone is brought in, they just magnify him.
Oh,
And
absolutely for
of
us.
course, the body is saying,
Right.
okay, you've accommodated with this. How do you make it bigger?
Right. Yeah. So the energy part is really good because for us, energy comes in and we're supposed to let it out, let it flow. Comes in, it goes. It comes in, it goes. For most people, the energy comes in, they may feel something and they hang on to it. And as you hang on to it, then that's how you will be off balance. I don't want to say sick, but because you keep these things in you going around and around, and then they combust and get more, and then it's something that your body is like, oh, I can't handle this anymore. Let me pop this thing out so you can realize it. But our bodies are supposed to take the energy in and let it out. Take it in,
Yeah,
let it out. And so
yeah,
that's the flow we're looking for. We want to be keep flowing. And that
exactly.
happens moment to all every moment
Yes.
you get to
w-
choose, right?
whether you're eating delicious food or having great sex,
Right.
it's all about it all moving through and you being totally present with that moment to feel the full intensity. And it's the
Right.
same in spirituality.
Right.
And that's such of the beauty of it.
Right.
I wanted to ask you another question. We have
Mhm.
only 10 minutes left. Gosh, where did
What?
the time
Okay.
go? What? So, what's a healing session or a conscious expansion session like with with what you do?
So for us, uh Yvonne and I work in different ways, right? She can sit with you and she can give you a reading right off the bat. For me, I want to understand, how are you thinking? First, before you lay on my table, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Right? Because to me, a lot of people don't need a reading, right? They need education. Most
Mm,
people that come don't believe they can heal themselves. That's why they keep coming. But after a while, you should get a jump and then go back and work on healing yourself, right? So for us, I want to talk to you first and let you know, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here to battery. I can boost you, but once you leave here, you got to keep the boost going, right? Your body will heal
yeah.
itself. Like if you leave my session and you talk about the neighbor, then the session was worthless, right? Not worthless, but it won't last very long,
Yes.
right? So we want to get you in a space where you realize that these these tools that we have here are here to help you. Open yourself
Yes.
up to whatever it is. Have no expectation. Just come and like, I want to have a session with you, right? And see what happens. And usually during the session, we get impressions, readings, messages just for you. And the thing about that is, what we want you to know also is that your best psychic is yourself. Your best medium is
Yes.
yourself. Because if I'm giving you a reading, I'm giving you a message that has to come through my aura, all my beings, all my lifetimes, everything, and get to you. So it's kind of tainted, right? Usually it's true, but it's kind of tainted with my stuff. Now, if you're getting the message directly from your guides, angels, gatekeeper family, then it's much pure, it's much more truthful for you, right? So that's how when we come in, and we're not here to come in and get money for a healing. We're here to help you really heal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like, look, I can't
But
afford it.
but
Okay,
it's but
just
it's
come
good to
and we'll
get
do it.
paid, and there needs to be an energetic exchange
Yes,
at some point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, yeah.
That's part of it. In Cledstone, you're still in Southwest Austin, and
We're in actually in South Austin. We're in Buda right now. So we moved from South, and we're in Buda right now on the outskirts of Austin.
okay. And I just I just put on uh, the ticker, and I forgot to do this, but it has
Okay,
Cledstone's information and my information in case
okay.
you're watching this. But basically, if you go to Cledstone's YouTube's channel, and that's Cledstone is
Mm-hmm.
Cledstone and Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
If he's on YouTube, he's on Facebook and Instagram,
Right.
and you can dial him up. You can Google him and start looking to get a session from him
Yeah,
um,
we're
with,
yeah. We're
with
here to
this.
help. Yeah, well, I mean, we're here
Yeah,
to help because
yeah,
a lot of as you, we don't want you to stop going to your doctor, but we want you to add some type of spiritual practice as well as your medication. That way the medication is not as harmful, and you can understand that I can start healing myself. That's what we want you to keep thinking. I can heal myself. Like your body replenishes
yeah,
itself in cells every so long, 5 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever, all your cells are new, right? But if we keep hanging on to these things, then of course it needs help. The things we eat, like you eat a certain thing. You watch what you put in your mouth, watch what you put in your head, watch what you watch, because at every moment you're creating. You're never not creating, right? So it's either you're going to create by default, go with the flow, and anything happens, or you're going to be like,
You're
this
never
is what I want
stopping
to do.
creating.
You're never not creating. There's no such thing. You're never not. You're a creator. Like we say, we were born in the image, you're created in the image of God. That's another whole topic, right?
Hmm.
So act like yes, we are. So whatever the small chicken does, the large chicken did. So understand when they say that, take that and run with it. You have
Yes.
that power. You're born with when you were born with everything you will ever need to create anything you want.
So it's always good to have lots of crystal skulls or crystals,
Always
or
good to have.
uh, like I have an Egyptian ankh. When I am laying in my bed, I can look up and see it. Also, I often work out on my bed. I do shamanic work,
Hmm.
uh, mostly through Zoom.
Hmm.
And I look at this ankh just to help me remember
Right,
of clarity, because
right,
the ankh always clears everything and
right,
gives you clarity. But it
right,
reminds me that it's like, okay, that's your reality that you can choose.
right.
And it's a moment to moment process of
Correct.
getting in touch with
Absolutely.
your heart, your body, your groundedness.
Right,
Uh, that, or you can start to get in your head and be afraid,
right.
which is a great,
And then you're
it's
creating.
so great.
And it's not a bad thing, but it's like if that's what you want to do, fine. If there's some experience you're enjoying about being negative, fine, that's cool. But there's also the other side of why not
Yeah.
be
It's,
positive? Take
it's
the
one
same
of,
kind of energy, the same amount of energy, right?
yeah, and it always brings up that question. Well, how is that really working for you to be so freaked out or worried?
Right,
And yes, there's a lot of problems in the world. However, how's it working for you to be in fear about them all the time?
right, right. And in
As
fear,
opposed,
fear is, and I said this on Sunday, fear is there to let you know what you need to work on. If you're
yeah,
afraid of something, that's where your lessons are right now. Whatever you're afraid of, start taking a look at it, look at it closely and look at it and take it apart. And you're going to realize, oh, I learned a whole lot. And then a lot of the time
exactly.
it's like I, the fear energy was wasted. Like I did this the other day. I was dreading this conversation with a family member for 2 or 3 days, and then when we had the conversation, it was like I wasted them that whole time, but still, I understood. Okay, next time I won't be so wasteful of that energy. So I learned. Like, okay, I'm still learning.
Exactly.
I'm not at the top. I'm
Exactly.
still learning, moment to
It's
moment. Right?
it's always pressing, and the most important thing is we always have choice with all of this.
Absolutely.
And so, the crystal skulls are just one of those things that remind us of there's something much greater out there,
Absolutely.
and all of that greatness that is out there, it's all within us.
Correct. Absolutely. You can find it. It's like what's good about the internet, when I was coming up and I have all these books, I don't know, maybe 1,000 spiritual books, Yvonne and I together. Now you guys got YouTube and you got Google and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So all the information is even closer, right? So watch
Hmm.
what you put in your brain, right? What's what you watch. That's why YouTube is good because you get to choose what you watch. They don't
Yes,
force stuff on you like a regular TV channel, right? They don't
yes,
force it on you. And
yes,
this is the only thing you can watch. Take your pick. What do you like? And then go from
exactly.
there.
We're in a very blessed time of many, many choices,
Absolutely.
and that is something we really need to be careful about choosing.
Yeah.
And Cledstone, we're coming to the end of the hour.
Mhm.
If there's anything that you could say in a 30-second sound bite about the transformation of the skulls, what would it be?
It is to not be afraid. Just enjoy, like when we started with the skulls, just we picked them because they were beautiful, they're beautifully carved. So we enjoy every moment of it as we were looking at it like a child would look at things, right? A
Mm,
child would take a stick and have fun with it, and we want to go out and buy something for $1,000, and these small things are right in front of us. So be like a child and look at these things and forgive and forget. They would fight 1 minute and be okay the next minute. Everything is
Mm.
supposed to be easy, right?
Yes.
So just take it moment by moment and take it everything as a lesson. I have this saying at work where it's like you either win or you learn. There's no win and losing. You either win or you learn. That's it. Take that and run with it. Please. That's how you will be helpful to yourself. Never
Yes.
lose, because when you lose, you're in a negative state. You win, or okay, I'm gonna learn next time. I'm gonna be better. You win or
Yes.
you learn, and you keep going. And in a nutshell, that's all this is about. And I'm learning more as these things come around me, and they're bringing more information and all that. And our job is just to share with others. You know.
Yes. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Cledstone. That was beautiful. And you can find Cledstone on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Cledstone Jordan, Crystal Skulls. You start
Hmm.
Googling that, he will start coming up, and you can
Yep.
get to meet with him and experience his world. In
Yep.
my world, I am Bart Sharp. My website is bartsharp.com. I do shamanistic work, French tours to southern France. But also on my website, I have a lot of interesting stuff and a lot of downloads that you can check out. And next week, we have Julie Bradshaw with The Soul of the Horse, which we're going to go into the spiritual journey about how horses transform people and their relationship with that. And Julie is a psychic of magnitude that liked horses and loved horses, but then as an adult, somehow they became reinvented in her life. And we're going to go into that journey because I find horses totally fascinating.
Yep.
And so it'll be a great hour to go into that type of consciousness. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And thank you, Cledstone, for being with us and having all of this wonderful sharing that you've had. Very grateful of your presence.
Happy to help. Happy to help.
And we'll see y'all next week at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Bye for now.